Buy an old tractor, they said. It'll be fun, they said. Alright, Dad, so how's that for a cool new intro? I probably spent way too much time on that, but we'll give it a shot. Video editing's kind of fun. Sometimes it's not. That's another story. Today we're talking about the D3400 diesel engine off of my Caterpillar D2 because it's headless. That part went well. As you can see, I got the head right here. Actually, most of the paint came off of it just with the air hose because it was so oily from it weeping up from the gasket. This one had been redone with the steel-clad gasket, which does have a tendency to lose a little bit of oil through it, and it came out and leaked up the sides, and the paint's not that great either, so more on that in a bit. Also, I pulled the injectors out, and this one, the pre-comp chamber, actually came out with the injector, which was weird, but that forced me to make a really nice pre-combustion chamber tool. That came out great. Again, more on that later. I've got a lot of stuff that I'm going to start with, and we're going to be talking more about it later. So, the head came out great. Where's the problem, you might ask? In here. So I started looking at the cylinders, and I thought they looked great until I got to number 2. I started at 4, so I was working my way back. When you look down in there, she does not look pretty at all. Pit. 1, great. 3, not so bad. 4 started to rust. But number 2 is by far the worst. So that puts me in a bit of a predicament. That's not good. Not at all. However, one of the first steps when building one of these engines is putting the sleeves in the block, which means to fix that problem, pretty much everything we've done rebuilding wise, not takedown wise, is negated. It's got to come off if we're going to fix that problem. And this has just turned into a 100% complete, total, frame off, tear down, strip down, remove the paint, restoration, 100%. Fabulous. I've had this particular D2 for almost a year now. I picked it up on my birthday last January, middle of last January. And in and of itself, that was an ordeal. We actually got in a traffic accident because of weather on the way back and totaled the trailer that the D2 was sitting on and did some pretty major damage to my truck all on my birthday. It was fantastic. This was in Michigan too. For those of you that don't know, I'm in Wisconsin. So we were driving all the way around through Illinois, Indiana, basically to get back up to the same north-south level in Michigan on the other side of the lake. So it was a pretty long trip, and we weren't even 2 hours into it when that happened. And then we had to drive home. Fortunately, my truck still worked. We had to drive home without the trailer, without the D2, and I had to have it paid to ship back. And the insurance on all this was ridiculous. It was not fun. So you could say this D2 has fought me from day one, and this is just adding to it. But that's what it is. So, when I bought this tractor, it was in unknown running condition. And I got it home, and I wound up having to go in and clean up the injection pump and put new head gaskets on the starting motor, and that was it. Everything after that, I've got receipts and some odd parts and stuff that says it was partially rebuilt in 1997. I don't know how far he went. It did have the steel head gasket on it, so I think he did that because I had 2 other ones that came with it. But I don't know how far he went. It doesn't look like he went all the way. So I called the local cat dealer earlier this week. I ordered 4 new liners, copper seals, O-rings, everything to get these in there and proper. We have a lot of work to do before we can even get to that. So that's going to be today. As you know, I don't have a heated shop. It's very cold out here, so it's going to have to be a little bit. I'm going to go in and work on some other video stuff. Come back out. We're just taking stuff off. We're going to try and get it as close to bare block as we can today, so that when these parts get here and I start working on it next Tuesday probably, we can just start going on it and start getting numbers off cylinder liners, checking ring clearances, which brings me to another point. Rings are almost impossible to find right now for these. I have to pull the pistons to see which style of piston is even in here, but all I could find so far was one style of oil control ring. So that's some good news, that's some bad news. Bad news is obviously I can't get any of the other rings. The good news is the most difficult to make ring is still in stock for some pistons. And I say most difficult to make because yes, if I have to, I am planning on making piston rings for this. Because I can. But all my spiel being set aside, we've got a lot of work ahead of us. I really wanted to take this tractor to the local tractor show. I've been going to the meetings for it, and the other guys are really excited to see it. We don't have a lot of Caterpillars at shows in these parts, and there's guys that are excited to see it, but the process just got a lot heavier. It's going to be a lot of work, and we're just going to have to push ahead. We're going to have to throw some money at it, that's for sure. Parts for this aren't cheap, and that's part of the reason why I'm going to be making some of the parts, because I have the ability to do it. Some concerns going forward. Big one is condition of the crankshaft and crankshaft bearings. I've looked through the lower view ports after I drain the oil out of it. I'm not terribly worried about it. Everything seems to be in good shape down there, but we'll have to check clearances. And if they're out of clearance, we may have to pour and cast and line new bearings, and that's going to be a whole project in and of itself. That's going to require some research too, but that's a topic for another day. So, like I said, where we stand today is we need to start tearing this down. We need to get all the valves and springs are behind me right now. We need to get all those set aside and organized so we don't lose any of them. We need new springs for it too. Some of the springs were chopped in half. This thing is very interesting. Some parts have been gone through clearly and taken care of and redone nicely. Other parts have not. So it's a thing that comes down to me every time I wind up buying an old tractor, is it always winds up coming down to me tearing it down to the bone and making sure that everything is perfect. Every oil passage is clear. Everything is just right. Maybe it's because I'm attentive to details. Maybe it's because I'm paranoid. I don't know. But I do feel better in a sense that now that we're tearing this whole thing down, by the time it's all said and done, we are going to have a fantastic running D2. And one of the earliest ones known. I don't know a lot of other serial numbers as low as this, especially when it matches the chassis too, which is really cool in my opinion. But that being said, this tractor's cool factor, because it's early and the numbers match, is just way up there. This is the ultimate cool in my book. I stumbled across it. I mean, the guy, given how old it is and how its numbers match, I got a good deal on this thing. And it did run when I got it. So, but I think what we're going to start with doing here is we're going to start taking stuff off the side. Before I found out about these cylinder liners, I was in the middle of editing a video because I had gotten far behind on editing the D2 videos. I just took some of the clips just to get us up to this point of dismantling the engine. And I'll probably throw that in here somewhere, just so that we can all get up to speed on this. But what's going to happen next is more dismantling, organizing parts, smaller stuff we're going to get ready to paint, because that's going to be a major holdback. Is way too cold to paint in here right now. We're going to need to get parts into the house. Maybe take some of them to work to warm up, and if we get a warm day, maybe paint them. Just keep them set aside in there so they stay warm. But it's going to be interesting, and I hope you'll stay tuned to see what happens, because I'm really hoping we get a cool product at the end of the day. Because, like I said, this tractor's got a lot of cool factor, and we're going to get it back up to running 100% and being the solid machine that these D2s were known to be. So stay tuned, guys.